All right, guys, welcome back. And it's taken us a minute between the last time you and I did a show, although we've actually done several shows, but this might be the first show they've actually watched in a while. Um, because it's been a minute. It's been busy. It's been a busy fall, busy spring, everything else. Before we get into all that, Lucas, how are things in your neck of the woods?
Things are great. I've been super busy with everything. That's the only way to put it is everything. That's what's kind of made doing these a little bit more tricky, I guess you would say. And I'm happy to be back. And it's state season. Most people remember that we're in my generation. In fact, the last three state tournaments, I had tape on the spectacles. So I decided for old time's sake, throw some tape on these. They don't need it. I mean, they're good, but I just
Uh-huh.
figured why not? Just to
Uh-huh.
have some fun.
Who punched you between the eyes? That caused the
Uh,
breaking of the glasses.
that'd be my girlfriend.
Okay, all right, that makes more sense. Probably for good reason. So,
She usually has good reason.
no doubt. All right, so let's jump into 4A. And again, for anyone who hasn't watched 1A, 2A, 3A, 5A, 6A, or the girls, we have been working on several of these over the last few days. I think it's important to start off with um, the the kind of asterisk, the caveat, the whatever that says, you know, these are our picks. This is our, us having a good time talking about wrestling, and really we think we have an idea, but you know what? High school wrestling is so unpredictable. We have no idea actually what's going to happen, who's going to have a great week, who might be coming up in a little injured or banged up, who might be, a little sick or whatever. So, Lucas, you always have something to say about, the opportunity is in front of you and, going and making the best of your opportunity, whether we pick you or not.
I mean, look, it's one of these things where every high school wrestler's season and career, it culminates in February. This is what you're working towards. At the end of the day, we're going to have fun and talk about the sport that we love. But in the grand scheme of things, what we say doesn't really matter.
That is a true statement. That is a true statement. And you know what? There's going to be some people out there who will do exactly kind of what we think is going to happen. And there's going to be some people out there who go, no, 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 no. Like, this is my chance. This is my opportunity to make a run. So, 4A is one of my favorites to watch this weekend. If you're not a person who is a 4A fan necessarily, you don't, you're just kind of tuning in. But you're going to be in the Macon arena and you're looking for a classification that is just a lot of fun. Some really talented teams in the group. This is a classification that has Ola, Cass, Central Carroll. I mean, Woodland. I mean, just so many different teams, so many different talented individuals. Some of the best potential state finals will happen in 4A.
For sure. 4A, being the mix of 5 and 4 that it is, has kind of created a very, very interesting situation here. And I'm very interested to see how a lot of these weights play out.
I agree. So we're gonna jump to we're gonna talk about the schools real quick, and I'm just gonna give you a few numbers, but we're actually going to break down the actual team race at the end. A few things there, I mentioned a few names. Cass, they have 12 qualifiers, right? Central Carroll has 8 qualifiers. You've got Ola with 12 qualifiers. You've got Woodland with 9 qualifiers. These are different names. These are different teams I've mentioned. But there's other teams that you should keep an eye on. Eastside has 10. Jones County has 12. Love seeing teams that that weren't necessarily at the top, in previous years. I mean, 12, man. That's a team coming to make it.
Oh, for sure.
All right. So I want to start off by saying every year lots of we get together different people, sponsors from all over the place who really help out the state tournament in a significant way. If you've watched any of the other ones, we've talked about Up, we've talked about Takedown. I think we talked about the Fellowship for Christian Athletes headlining one of them. One of the ones that I think that how well did you know the Denby family, Lucas?
Just a little. But in terms of how well did I know the Dendy family, came up wrestling alongside Garrison.
Garrison?
Is that the oldest? I could
Probably a
be.
little younger than you, I think.
No, me and him were only a year or two away from each other.
Okay, all right.
I would go to dual tournaments and he'd be in the same divisions as me at middle school duels. We were in the same division. Love the dad, good ass dude. Like, shout out to the Garrisons. Geez, the Dendies. Holy. Shout out to the Dendies.
Well, we also so the reason I bring this up is that Certified Finishes is a commercial flooring company, and they are a sponsor of the state tournament. And the reason I bring it up is that if you look across the list of the sponsors, a lot of them have connections to the sport. That's how we kind of have them in this group, is that they have connections to the sport. So, like one of the other ones that is also a sponsor are the Bambinellis, Bambinelli pizza and pasta. By the way, have you ever eaten at the Bambinelli?
I haven't had the chance yet. And I always tell them that I'm going. I'm just never over on that side of town when I have time to go eat.
Yeah, you know what? I need to get together and have try it out. So, all right. So let's jump into class 4A, and we're going to start at 106 pounds, where I think there's a lot of, I think the favorite has got to be Micah Mostek from Eastside. He's a returning state placer, but he had a tough go. He had to win in sudden victory in the semifinal match against Akins. He beat Barrett in the finals 7-3. So this isn't a foregone conclusion. I think he's a favorite, but there's a lot of individuals within at 106 that could be in the hunt for a state title.
Agreed. I think there's a couple really good ones here, and I really like Micah, but I also really like, and I'm gonna go a little bit on a limb here. I'm gonna pick Hayden Trim out of Cass to get the job done over Micah Mostek in the finals, and give me Ashton Akins out of Loganville as my dark horse.
Locust Grove.
Locust Grove. Why did I just say Loganville?
It's okay. It's all right. So yeah, I'll tell you what. Trim won section A, was it? And
I believe.
Yeah, and he's tough. So a tough freshman, definitely somebody to keep an eye on. So, all right. So let's jump to 113 pounds. Returning state placer Matthew Coleman from Perry won one of the sectionals. Jaden Mateo from Stockbridge won the other section. He's a returning state qualifier. But there might be somebody further down the list that could kind of upset the apple cart a little bit. I'm looking at Jair Flores from Cartersville, who's a returning state placer, who ended up taking sixth in the section. How do you see 113?
This weight is a bit darts for me. Couple really tough guys on this bracket. I'm gonna take Coleman out of Perry to win it. He's had a good season so far. All of his wins look really good, and even his comparable opponents' wins, he's involved. I'm gonna take Walker out of Cass to get to the finals. This is one of those situations where you look at 20-10 on the year, and you might look at it a little sideways at first. Then you look at some of his losses. Adam Perez from Pigeon Forge, who's tough. William McGowan as John's Nauman, who's tough. His losses are by no means bad losses. I think he gets through. Give me Noah Petrick as my dark horse. I like that kid out of Jones County a lot. He's a freshman, 39-6 on the year. Lost in the sectional finals to Mateo from Stockbridge in a close match. You look at his losses on the year, they're not good. And he has some good wins as to match. So yeah.
I like that. The reason one of the things I really liked about what you picked out was that, that loss to McGowan from St. John Newman McGowan is a returning state placer in the state of Florida. He is a very, very tough wrestler. And the fact that that's just an illustration of some of the level of competition that Cass has seen. And that, again, we talked about it in a couple other ones, but records don't necessarily mean everything that you see in front of them. Taking tough losses is super valuable.
Cass is a great example of that, where some of their guys might have a lot of losses, and it's like, yeah, they've dueled a lot of really good teams, and they have as well. Like when you have a guy that has a lot of wins, it's like, okay, who the hell is he beat to get this many wins? And in this case, where we're coming up on at 120 pounds, we see a great example of that.
Yeah. Well, and 120 pounds is actually one of the best weights. Again, if you look across the board, Hunter Barrett from Cass, who was returning, I think he took third a year ago, he has beaten defending state champion Chris Phillips, I think twice. And, having those wins is big. But, the other side, Keegan Dawkins, the Dawkins crew out of Walnut Grove, we talked about it in another one. There are a lot
boys
of
Dawkinses.
And Keegan is tough as a freshman. He won that section over returning state runner-up Max Meredith of Ola. And, you look at Brian Ruiz, you got Hunter McCleskey, Jack Schuler. This is a good weight class.
Completely agree. I think it's a great weight class.
All right. So how is it going to play out?
120 pounds. I am a firm believer in, if you beat someone twice, that third time to beat him is the toughest. And in a situation where I think team race could be not necessarily on the line, but some heavy implications. Malcolm McLean is my dark horse. Let me start there. Union Grove. They're going to be well coached. He's a senior. I don't believe he's a state placer returning. I could be wrong. No. 28-16 on the year. I think he is my dark horse. Also, watch out for Max Meredith. But for those that don't know, my dark horses, I try to stay off the 1 and 2 lines. I try to avoid that.
So you're taking Philip?
If you'd let me finish. You give me a moment, best friend.
Well, I just saw the brain trying to work, and I was like, I don't know, is he going to do it or not?
Brother, I know how to work a crowd, so let me allow me work the crowd, okay? I talk as if in my pro wrestling career, the thing that I am the worst at is working a crowd. But whatever. No one needs to. We don't need to talk about that. But now, in all seriousness, I am going to take. I'm going to take Phillips over Barrett in the finals.
Wow. All right.
I think the third time's the charm. I think he figures them out. And yeah.
All right. You know what? I do agree with you in that when you got wrestlers who are really pretty close and beating them repeatedly, it can be difficult, but I'm also a big believer in that, man, you've beaten them twice. There's no reason why you can't do it again. So, it's going to be.
Well, I agree there. That's also that's a very fair point.
Yeah. Who do you think actually feels the pressure in that? The person who's won twice or the person who's lost?
From personal experience. It's Barrett. It's Barrett? Absolutely Barrett.
Because he's won twice.
Absolutely. I'll give you the best example. My freshman year, I beat Alex Standridge in the county finals and in the area duels finals. The first time I beat him, I think I majored him. The second time I beat him, we had like a 4-point match, and we wrestled in the area traditional finals, and he ends up catching me in a headlock and sticks me just because I overthought the match. Now I torched him at sections. I torched him. But point being, that third, it's something about that third match, man. It's the, all things come in threes. I can't explain it. It's third match situation, state finals, team race implications heavy in this one. I think he has enough to get it done.
All right, let's jump to 126, where
And here comes the cast fans talking all that ish.
oh
Here that comes. They do it to me every year because every year I do this with them. One day I'll learn.
one day you will learn, and I'll tell you what, I should have learned because I didn't pick them to win duels. I said they were a wild card, and sure enough, what did they do? They went and won duels. So, you know what? Maybe it's actually
welcome to my world, brother.
Maybe it's good we don't pick you.
Oh, I think there are some people that prefer I don't pick them.
All right, so going to 126, this is somebody that I know you're going to pick, and I just don't know that there's really. I mean, look, Nolan Christian from Eastside is a talented wrestler. Preston Valentine, Adrian Zapata, Arlie Solis. You got a number of different individuals, but the truth of the matter is, there shouldn't be anybody on the same level as Ty Murray from Central Carroll.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, is I assume he's your favorite.
Yes, I'm picking him to win it.
Going against him.
Give me Chastain at Eastside. I think Eastside's going to make a really sneaky run in the team race. We'll get there when we get there. But as my dark horse, Connor Kimbrough.
No, Carson Kimbrough. Because you have three damage.
I love, shout out to Olaf crew, and I love the Kimbrough family, and I wrestled for years with Connor. That's the problem. But Carson Kimbrough, damn it, gave me Carson as my dark horse.
All right, I love it. All right, let's jump to 132.
I don't, because I can't freaking. Never mind.
132 pounds. Another talented group of individuals. I was actually looking at this weight a little bit closer. Not because I don't think Ollie Webb is the favorite. I think he's definitely the favorite. I was really
but the middle of the bracket's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, and one of the names that jumps out to me is Connor DeSaltis from Benedictine, who lost his opening round match at sectionals. I think he got pinned in like 15 seconds. Must have gotten head and armed or something along those lines. And then he decides, you know what? No. And he just marches all the way back through and takes third. So that's illustrative from the fact that, one, anybody can beat anybody, all right? But number two, I like individuals who say, you know what, that's not how this is going to work out. I'm going to put it back. I'm going to strap it back up and go back out there, and I'm going to come back and make the podium. So
let me ask you, Jason. Do I do something stupid right here?
It's never stopped me before. You're going to pick somebody other than Ollie Webb? No way.
No, not to win it. No. Ollie Webb's my boy. Love Ollie Webb. Bottom of the bracket is a minefield. And you want to know what, in my opinion, is the biggest mine of that group?
Who?
The only guy that I know in that bracket that has to argue with his sister who's better on a weekly basis. That would be Colt Mitchell. I love that kid to death. Every time he steps on the mat, he's better. He's 41-7 in the year. Basically, all 7 of his losses on the year are good, tough losses. I don't really, as far as my recollection, and I'm scrolling back through his thing to look, I mean, at the knockout, both of his losses are 2 points. His losses at sectional and area are 2 3-point losses. I think the kid, I think he gets it done. I think he gets past Maddox, who's a monster in his own right. I've got to work with Kyle Maddox out of North County. Dude's tough. I think he gets the win over Maddox in the quarters. I think he knocks off Luka Jensen in the semis to meet Ollie Webb. I think he gives Ollie a better run than people think. But of course, I'm going to take Ollie Webb and give me Forrest Berkshire. I butcher his name every time. He's my dark horse.
All right. I like that. This is such
Colt Mitchell, make me look smart, kid. Love you. Make me look like a genius.
This is actually a really interesting weight in that there are going to be some quarterfinalists that lose. Like I'm looking at and again, I'm making some assumptions, but like a Jensen DeSaltis match, or if Noah Cates or Nathan Cates gets to Ollie Webb, Cates, if he loses there's going to be some tough quarterfinalists who drop down, and man, the fight to make top 6 is going to be tough.
Agreed. No, this is one of those and the thing is, big team implications in this one.
I agree.
Big team implications.
Well, and by you just saying, Colt Mitchell beating Luka Jensen in the semis there, that would be a big one. So
it would be huge.
All right. Let's move to 138 pounds, and one of my favorite weights to watch. 2 returning state champions, 2 individuals I actually really like to watch compete, and that is Colson Hoffman and Hunter Keene. I'm a big fan of both Dylan Cooey and Ezekiel Adams, who are returning state placers. Rowdy Duck, also returning state placer. Really, really good weight, but man, I'll tell you what.
This might be the best weight in the entire class.
Yeah, it's certainly this or one other, I think, are the 2 best weights in the class. And I love the fact that you've got 2 just absolute hammers. If you're sitting in Macon and they're getting ready to wrestle 138 pounds in that final, you really need to go watch that final. Well, I mean, whether you're there for 1A, 2A, 3A, or whatever the case is, this could be a fantastic match.
Bout 43-84 has got to be highlighted. That's one that you got to watch. Hoffman and Keene seemingly on a collision course. And of course, not wanting to disrespect guys like, and I'm just going to look up to down, but Christian Papkin, Ezekiel Adams, Dylan Cooey, Rowdy Duck, obviously, even a guy like a Vernon Butler or Vincent Butler at a Kel can bang. I'm going to take Hoffman over Keene.
Okay.
Yeah, Hoffman over Keene. And then give me the freshman Christian Papkin. I think he plays a big part in Ola's possible title hopes. I think they coach him up. I even see a world he gets to the semifinals. I could see him beating Ezekiel Adams. I think that's in his range. Now, Ezekiel Adams is a goer, is a straight gamer, and probably I would see is the likely favorite in that one. But for Ola, this is huge. If Papkin can get to the sems, he then drops to Hoffman. He has probably a more favorable matchup in that Conci semi to get to the 3-4, and that could be huge for him. I'm taking Christian Papkin as my dark horse. Make me look like a genius, little Papkin.
All right. We jumped to 144 pounds, and again, several quality individuals in the weight. We have Graham Dawkins, another Dawkins, returning state placer, who is the Section B champion. And, I'm going to say AJ Piat, and the reason I'm going to say that is that he's not a returning state placer because I thought he was hurt last year at last year's state tournament. That's the reason he's not a returning state placer, but he has definitely been on the podium previously and definitely can make a run here at 144 pounds and win it. I will say, though, there's some tough individuals. Danny Curtulas from Central Carroll, Jackson Bailey, Jonathan Sandberg, Dylan Baines, Landon Moss from Ola. If we're talking about Ola, which you just were, all these individuals should be kind of in the hunt to try to win 140.
Agreed. I mean, you basically laid this bracket out. I mean, and you look, it's a minefield for either Dawkins or Pyatt. I mean, you look at Pyatt, you're looking at Bennett or Moss in that second round, neither of which is a slouch. You then go to the sems where you're likely to see Bailey in that one. And then down on the bottom side, the idea of a Crutella Sandberg quarterfinals tantalizing in terms of matchups. With the winner probably getting Dawkins, it's a tough weight to pick. I'm going to go my gut and say Aiden Pyatt gets the job done over Dawkins in the final. And give me Crutellis as my dark horse. I really like Landon Moss. I really like Jonathan Sandberg. At Alatuna, that kid can go and is super dynamic in his offense. But I just think Crutellis, the coaching staffs here come into play. Central Carroll always has their guys ready to go, especially their younger guys. And while you look at Crutellis as a junior, he is still one of their kids. He's been with Central Carroll a long, long time. Gave me Crutellis as the dark horse. Gave me Pyatt over Dawkins in what will be a sleeper for match of the night.
All right. All right. So let's jump to 150. And you know what, 150 is super interesting in that, again, I'm going to start with a lot of quality wrestlers as far as returning state placers. Ari Martin from Jones County, Taylor Nix from Cartersville, Zeb Dawkins, who was a returning state runner-up from Walnut Grove, another Dawkins that we're talking about. Jake Hall from North Oconee, Braden Thomas from Cedartown. There's so many different kids who have either been on the podium or returning state qualifiers. But your two section champs are the two that we want to talk about. One is returning state champ in Javion Redmond, and the other, again, like Pyatt or from Cass, I believe David Jewell was out last year because of injury. Both of them won sectionals, and I'll tell you what, I mean, if Jewell is healthy, I mean, he can make a run. You know, Redmond has been banged up. In fact, I think there was an Instagram post once, like earlier this year, saying he was going to be done for the year. Well, guess what? Here he is. So
here he is.
You know, it's just one of those things. Who comes in healthy, who is feeling it, is probably winning 150. But again, 150 is deep.
150 is dangerous for anyone to try to get through. I mean, you look at all the draws, you're running into someone. I mean, Redmond drawing Hall as a quarterfinal is by no means an easy out. Dawkins there in the middle of the bracket from Ari Martin is not an easy out. I'm gonna go, and I love me some David Jewell too, but we've talked about this in a couple other videos, families and teams kind of getting on a roll. I think the Dawkinses at Walnut Grove get on a roll.
You think Dawkins wins?
I think Dawkins gets past David Jewell in the semis. I think Javion Redmond is a little too much.
Okay.
And let me make something clear. David Jewell is one of the few guys in the state of Georgia I don't want to say higher levels. That sounds so ostentatious of me, but like those types of guys, he's one of the few guys I haven't put eyes on all that much.
Oh,
so I am looking at him at paper and face value. So I could entirely be wrong, and if I am, I have no issue admitting that. But yeah, and my dark horse in that one is Jake Hall out of North Oconee.
All right. Okay. Well, I will say this. If you are a fan and just watching, 150, like several other weights at N4A, will be a fun one to watch. Definitely. All right. We'll move into 157. And A lot of really talented individuals in this group, but I think we probably lean towards our returning state champion, Brian Papkin from Ola. He has been dominant pretty much all season. I know he has a few losses on his record because I saw him lose down at the knockout. I think that's his only two losses in for the season. Um, Otherwise, I mean, again, I think it's going to be really interesting. You got Ethan Harrington, who's a returning state qualifier from Cass. He won his sectional, so that's super important, and he could play a very important role for Cass. Even if he doesn't win, getting to the finals could be a huge thing for Cass.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you there. And I think that's what happens. I think we see a Harrington Papkin final. And this is where, right? I did it in 1A, I'll do it here. Brian Papkin is my little brother. Brian Papkin, Brian Papkin aspires to be like me every morning he wakes up, and we know that. He takes my moves, he took my arsenal. That's okay. Like we know that. Is that right, Ansley? What? Exactly. So we know that about Papkin. But even though he steals all my moves, and he tries to steal my mannerisms, and he wants to be like me, we know that. In all seriousness, I love that kid. He's a hell of a wrestler. I do think he gets the job done. And give me Ty Tossie out of Cambridge as my dark horse. That kid is so slept on.
Yeah, actually, I think that's a great pick. In that he's definitely been here before and everything else. He does run into Papkin in the quarters, assuming he gets to there. But that doesn't, again, making that run back through will be really interesting to see what happens. All right. Now we jump to 165, and this is one of the weights where I just don't know. I don't know who is the favorite. I think that both of the section champs are the favorite on their side. Zachary Wallace from Woodland and Jason Clark from Flowery Branch. You do have William White, who's a returning state runner-up in there, who definitely is somebody to watch, who took third. But I actually don't know how this play is going to play out. And honestly, a very dangerous Bo Davis down there who took sixth, who I think, I could be wrong, but he might have injury defaulted down to sixth. So that's somebody that is sitting in a dangerous spot for somebody in the bracket.
That whole middle quarter of Mutcherson, I believe, Regan, White, and Davis is nuts. Um, I'm gonna go a little off the beaten path. I think your champion in this one is Jason Clark. I think he gets the job done for Flowery Branch. I do.
Okay.
Talking about runs, East Side. If we go based on what I've been picking, East Side's had a hell of a weekend when we get up to 165 pounds. Give me Malachi Riley to get to the finals.
Okay. All right.
And my dark horse, give me William White out of Central Carroll as my dark horse. And this is what we've talked about. In terms of team race, a guy like William White is huge. Can you imagine if William White knocks off Munchausen, gets to the semis and beats Jason Clark? Now you're looking at a Central Carroll team that has 5 in the finals. It really makes it a fascinating final situation.
Well, and it's not a crazy thing to think because he was in the state finals last year, and I think he lost 4-2 in the finals. So, I mean, we're talking, somebody was within a takedown of or a reversal of, tying it up and everything else. So, that's not crazy. I will say though, man, you want a banger of a first round match. White versus Bo Davis is a banger.
The fact that's a first round to me is heinous.
Yeah. So, well, it's what happens when somebody, injury defaults to sixth, and then, or I think he did. I don't know that. I shouldn't say that. I don't. This is not insider knowledge. I'm just looking at the bracket, and I'm pretty sure that's what I remember seeing. All right. Jump into 175 pounds. Returning state champion Jackson Moffitt. But man, he's got some good wrestlers in his way. Mason Tompkins from Cass, Matthew Van Wettering from Harris County. You have a number of other different individuals in the bracket. But for me, those three names are the three names that kind of stand out at 175.
I agree. I have it Moffitt over Tompkins in the final. I think Moffitt kind of takes care of business. Um, a bit of an odd one here. Give me Isaac Jones at a Stockbridge as my dark horse. Even though you want to talk about, we've talked about who makes a run. I like Hambrick down there, or that's Ware County. I was looking at the wrong guy. Excuse me. But a guy like Melvin Ramos at a Woodland could be huge for them if he get a couple wins on the backside. Jacob Diamond draws Van Wettering, yes, but if he can get past Van Wettering or even just do some runs on the backside, him and Schuler for Walnut Grove, even like this could be a thing for either of those teams. So watch out for these middle guys here. This weight could really help decide the team race, or at least decide if Olar, Central, or Woodland, if one of these teams can maybe try to inch closer to Cass.
Right. Yeah. All right. Now we move to 190 pounds, and perhaps my favorite weight of the tournament. You have, because of the mashup of 4A and 5A together, you have returning state champion and Kiersik Rowe from Cass. You have returning state champion Griffin Harper from Flowery Branch. You have returning state runner-up Xander Dossett from Ola. You have returning state runner-up Easton Boren from Harris County. You also have a number of other individuals, but I'll tell you what, based upon the sectionals, Rowe and Dossett took care of business. They look good in doing so. Will we see a rematch of the state finals from a year ago where Rowe beat Dossett?
I think we do see the rematch. And I think in something that might spell the story for the rest of the night, I think Xander Dossett slays Old Demons.
Ooh, really? Okay.
This is what gets me is his run at the knockout. He draws Ryder Wilder in a match that I think my Matrix has Ryder as a 9.5-point favorite.
And he lost 4-0, right?
And mind you, my Matrix also has Ryder as like a 7.5-point favorite against Kriesig. Or Kursig. I can never say his first name right. If I see him at some point, I need to ask him, how do you have to say his first name? Point being, and Dossett controlled the pace of the match and really gave Ryder everything he could handle.
That is a true
thing. That kind of has changed the way I look at Xander Dossett. Olaw's going to have them ready to go. Yeah. Give me Dossett over Rowe in what I think might be one of the best 190-pound and up matches we've seen in Georgia. And then give me Griffin Harper to be the dark horse.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy thinking of a returning state champion as a dark horse, but that's how good
he really is.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk about what could change the entire atmosphere of the night, I'm just going to throw a scenario out there to you. And I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm throwing this out there. What happens if Griffin Harper knocks off Rowe?
Yeah, no, it's not beyond the realm of possibility. I mean, honestly, they're both returning state champions and they're both sitting on the same side of the bracket.
And now if he does that, now you got to look at a situation of all of the air might leave the building on the Cass side. And it might be oh crap, this could spell trouble. And then you got to think Rowe would then drop to that bottom side semifinal. We see it every year where a presumed favorite loses in the semis. They can't get their brain back on track. They lose in the Conci semis, and they're battling for 1.5 points in 5th place. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but we see it every year. There's at least one. This is that type of situation. Rowe comes in. He's supposed to be the top of the podium. If he gets stunned, who knows what could happen? And We see it every year. We do, Jason. And
No,
I
you're
know
right.
the
You're
face
right.
you're
The
making.
only
And
thing
I
I'm
know,
thinking
again,
of.
the Cast Armada is currently trying to find my location because I said that. I understand that. That's okay. I'm speaking hypothetically. I think Rowe will handle Harper. I just think Dossett is coming to this match with a chip on his shoulder. And
Yeah.
I love a guy with a chip on his shoulder. Hell, I have two.
Well, you know what? I think Rowe probably has a chip on his shoulder, even though he probably is the favorite in the weight, just because I think everybody, I don't know. Maybe I'm not, maybe I'm the only one, but I think we picked Dawson last year and Rowe beat him. You know what I mean? So,
I might have. I can't remember.
it's one of those situations where, I don't know. And honestly, we talked about it in other classifications conversations, and that is when you see somebody repeatedly and you've beaten them before, how difficult it is to beat them again. So that's another thing to keep in mind. All right. Moving to 215 pounds. I've been super impressed with Woodland's John Gill. He's a returning state runner-up. There's some other good wrestlers in the weight, especially Nolan Bloom down there, who's a returning state placer, and so on and so forth. But the truth of the matter is, Gill has looked like the best 215 in 4A all season long.
Agreed. I'm with you there. I think Gil is, and I'm gonna pick him to win it. I'm picking Hernandez from Dalton to get to the finals. I don't know why. I know he's good, and my brain tells me that's the right pick. My matrix says it as well, so I'm gonna rock with it. In terms of a dark horse, we talk about the team race. Cody Bean from Fast, freshman, 32 and 12 on the year. Look at some of his losses. They're not bad losses by any means. And I think, loses with Nauman, loses when they wrestled Johnson Central, has some good wins, though, against Josiah Kelly from Pigeon Forge. I think he gets enough to get onto the podium and does help Cass in their title hopes.
Nice. Okay. All right, so we now move to heavyweight, and this is actually a place where I think another situation where a cast wrestler can come up big, and he did. John Abernathy came up huge in their duel against Woodland in the state finals, and got the win there. And I think that he could play a huge role in a weight class besides Amir Ferguson from Southwest DeKalb is completely wide open. I mean, Ferguson's a returning
Agreed.
state placer, but everybody else, I don't know that anyone else is a returning state qualifier.
Brother, it is Georgia heavyweight. This is not uncommon. This is not uncharted territory.
All right, so is Ferguson your favorite?
Yes, Ferguson is my favorite. I'm gonna take him to win it. I'm gonna pick Roberti from North Oconee, though, to meet him there in the finals. I got to work with him a little bit last year, and that kid just got better and better. I think he gets to the finals. Give me Landon McKee as my dark horse from Olaf.
Okay. Okay. I love it.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
it. And just so everybody has an idea, and I'm looking at the spreadsheet I have in front of me, Ferguson, out of the top two, the two at sectionals, first or second, Ferguson's the only one who won his area or his area region. Roberti took second. Abernathy took fourth. Jared Frank took second. So again, another weight class where you're like, I don't know. We'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to see, just like we talked about over in 1A. I will say one person I would keep an eye on is Denver Degonia from Harris County.
Very much agreed. Very much.
All right. So with all that said, I've heard repeatedly, Walnut Grove. I've heard you talk about them. I've heard you talk about Woodland. I've heard you talk about Ola, especially there in the middle with several of their hammers, and you talked about Papkin and Redmond. But it sounded to me as if you really were talking about Central Carroll and Cass. Are those the teams that you have for your top five, or do you have? I know you mentioned Eastside a lot too. So what are your five?
I think Eastside makes a hell of a run. I think Eastside, though, is a couple of guys too short. Now, if they get some of these other guys that are dark horse adjacent, they get some of them high up on the podium. If maybe you flip one of your runners up to a champion that I have, if maybe Riley does the unthinkable, knocks off Clark, a situation like that. Like if they get a couple of those, then I think they're in the top five. But my from my matrix's math and my picks tonight, Woodland comes in fifth. Walnut Grove finishes in fourth. Central Carroll in third. Ola to runner up. Cass to win it all.
Wow. All right.
The way I have it set right now, Cass puts 7 into the finals. Ola puts 5. Central Carroll puts 4.
And you know what's interesting about what you said is that you're picking Cass, yet you don't have Rowe winning, you don't have Barrett winning, you do have Pyatt winning, you don't have Jewel winning. It's interesting. You think that it's going to be their depth. You think it's going to be like all the others that are going to get them a lot of points to push them to the top.
Yes. I think guys like Dean, I think Prim down at 106, I think he's going to do a lot of damage. But now here's the thing, right? And this is no unkept secret. I've been way more busy this year with other ventures. It's not like last season where I went to a few tournaments and girls duels and one of the state duels and then state individuals. So maybe I'm missing some things. And this is where we get a very interesting, because you gotta remember, my matrix is all paper and numbers based.
Right.
And there's no real eye test from me this year. So it'll be interesting to see how my matrix runs. So I'm curious. I could see any of the top 3 winning.
All right. And that is 4A, guys. Again, shout out to the sponsors for the state tournament. I mentioned a few at the top. We talked about the Dendies with certified finishes, Rocky Kaufman with Maximus Management, Commercial Real Estate. You had Takedown and Level Up, who we didn't really mention throughout this one, but we have mentioned in other ones. FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, certainly, and their role of supporting wrestling within the state and so on and so forth. So thank you to all of them. Lucas, thank you for taking the time, man. And
Of course.
I'll see you. We'll see if you're right or wrong. And you know what? Cast Mafia, go ahead and drop Lucas a line. Let him know where he got it wrong.
I picked him to win. Picked him to win the sumbitch. What do you want from me?
All right. Peace.